Hi, so in the previous video we show you how to load the bobbin, load the top thread, okay, and then now we shall go into the stitch length and stitch width adjustment. You can watch in the previous YouTube video on how to avoid nesting at your fabric, right? So some beginners who doesn't know how to pick up the thread, okay, you can watch the previous video too. Okay, so now we are at A. Alphabet A is at the straight stitch at 2.5 mm, so we shall start sewing. Now we will increase to 4 mm. So as you can see, this length is smaller and this stitch length is slightly bigger. Okay. So this one is 4 mm, this is 2.5 mm. Okay. So now we shall turn to B, zigzag stitch, just by turning the stitch selector cam at the side. So B, and then we will go into a smaller density and the zigzag at 2.5 with 2.5. Okay. We will continue, increase the zigzag stitch width at 7. Okay. So always remember to wind up your pickup lever using your hand wheel before you take the fabric out. Okay, let me trim the threads, the excess thread at the back and at the front. Okay. So the zigzag, the density at 2, that means the height of the stitch is at 2, and then just now was at 2.5 stitch width, and now it's at 7 mm stitch width. So you can see the differences. Play around with the machine, okay, the stitch length and width. Always remember to use your hand wheel to turn down before you start pressing on your foot controller. Okay, so now we shall go into the special stitches just by turning the stitch length all the way to S, the blue S. So you'll read the blue diagram, okay, at the bottom, which are the reinforcement stitches and also the special stitches. So now, because you're at the S mode, so you read the alphabet, okay, but in a blue diagram. So now we shall go to A. Okay. So remember, when you go to another stitch, turn back your stitch width. Okay. Okay, remember to wind up the pickup lever, and then now you go to B. Okay, so B, when you're doing some stitches with a zigzag, you must take note. Okay, use your hand to check if it's hitting on the presser foot. Okay, so now we go into maybe a H mode, H pattern. Okay, put down, and then you use your hand wheel to try. Okay, just a few stitches. Okay, you will not hit. So now you will continue to step. Okay, for some of the stitches you may need to refer to your manual, okay, to change what type of footers that is given in the machine. Okay, so these are the special stitches, reinforcement stitch, and then the over casting stitch. Okay. now we go into other patterns like K. Okay, so you turn your pattern cam to K. Okay, so we want to make something like a scallop shape. So scallop wise, you have to remember your density must be lesser. Okay, you can try by 1 mm stitch length, and then the scallop maybe 3 mm zigzag. Okay, so let's see how it looks like. So you see the scallop is very small. Okay, it does not really form the big stitch width. Okay, so what you do, you increase the stitch width. Okay, so increase here, maybe we go to the maximum, and then you decrease the stitch length a bit lah, so you don't go beyond between 0 to 1. And then you use your hand. Okay, you use your hand to turn the hand wheel so that to make sure your needle does not hit onto the presser foot. Okay, so once done, you can continue to step. As you can see, this is before I adjust the stitch length and width. This is after. Okay, now the scallop has formed. Okay, so you see this is the scallop before I adjust the length and the width. This is after I adjusted the length and the width. So do play around with your sewing machine with the stitch length and the stitch width so that to form your desired stitch pattern. Okay, so when you go back to straight line, that means it's the A stitch, just make sure your stitch width and length you adjust to the default mode. Okay, that's it. Do stay tuned to our next video for more sewing machine techniques and tips for all the sewies.